Hey everybody, welcome back to more The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past. In the last episode,
We are gonna cut myself off so I can talk about Dungeon 3! Yes, the third dungeon, the Tower of Hera. This dungeon is not really that complicated either. It's actually a lot less complicated than the second dungeon. It's pretty much just gonna be a straight shot. It's very linear. It's more so a gauntlet of enemies than a dungeon per se. The item here is gonna be the Moon Pearl, which is a required item, but you can beat the dungeon without it very easily, so you want to make note of that. You want to make sure you get the Moon Pearl before you beat the dungeon, because it's very easily missable. There's only one small key in this dungeon, so yeah, you get the one small key, then you get the big key, which is also a very weird progression, but yeah, not really much to say, just a tall tower, you gotta climb it. And yes, the music is different. Can you tell what game series I've been playing lately? Anyway,
we came up here to Death Mountain because we were told to go to the Tower of Hera so we can get a strange item called the Moon Pearl. And in this episode, we're going to go do just that. And here's the main gimmick of this dungeon. A bunch of switches. Let's see. So yeah, blue means red's up and we can't go through it, and blue's down we can, and red is vice versa. So whatever color the switch is the blocks that you can actually avoid. And we want to go down here first to get a key. And the blocks and the switches will remain on the color that they are even if you switch rooms. See how it's blue there? It will remain blue up here, and it will continue to do so until we hit it again. So we want to hit that switch right there. And I believe over here is going to be the dungeon map, actually. Oh, there we go, yes. Here is the map. Oh, whoa! I'm taking a lot of damage, actually. I should really be careful. Jeez, man. I mean, come on. Alright, and here there are tiles again. And this is one of the rooms where you actually have to avoid them because there's no way to bypass this area because the door doesn't have a switch and there's no key, so you just have to wait for it. And I should be really careful now because I'm about to die. Slashing your sword will destroy the tiles, so realistically... Oh, shoot! Oh, crap! Ah. That's what I get for being silly. Alright, so that's our first revival there, and I think that's actually our only fairy, because I don't think we have a second one, so I really need to be careful now. Yep, it was our only fairy, so if we want more... yeah, I really need to be careful unless I find more here. Which there are in this dungeon, so I'm not sweating it too much. There we go, getting hit again. Alright. Now, these enemies are mini Moldorms. They do a lot of damage, and they have a very erratic pattern, but as long as you use your spin attack, they'll die pretty quickly, so... Alright, I want to get that. Then let's get rid of these Stalfos here so they're not annoying us. And we get the big key! It's a very confusing item name because some games calls it the boss key, some games calls it the big key. This is the only game, however, besides... Yeah, the only game to my knowledge... I think Link's Awakening has this too. I'm not entirely sure, but the big... this is the only one where the big key is required not only for the boss room, but also for the big chest that contains the dungeon item. Alright, and thankfully we don't need to sit here and avoid all the tiles again. We just need to just flip the switch. Which actually I probably could have done here if I just used a boomerang, but... Yeah, whatever. Yeah, a little tip, if you want to hit the switch that's over a wall, you just use your boomerang and it'll go over the blocks even if they're up. Now that we're on the third dungeon, you kind of see like a little pattern developing that was pretty much how it was in the first Zelda game as well, where you get a dungeon item and it not only really helps you with the bosses, but it also helps you traverse the actual dungeons too. So it's a very neat system that was actually I don't know why it said it was in the first game. The first game just had items that helped you in the overworld, but in this game, it's more so items that help you traverse the dungeon and also defeat the boss at the end of the dungeon. And it's a very neat structure, and it's the structure that would go on to be used in future Zelda games. Which, again, another way how this game is very influential, kind of pretty much laying down the groundwork that Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, or actually not Majora's Mask, but Ocarina of Time, Wind Waker, Twilight Princess would then perfect later on. And I like how I say that, and I also simultaneously say that this is my favorite Zelda game. Here we get the compass. Which, actually, I'm kind of conflicted on now because I actually just recently finished playing A Link Between Worlds, and I really, really love the structure of that game, and I'm kind of wondering if that game is now going to be my favorite Zelda game. And yeah, go figure, the one game in the Zelda series that's actually based off solely of Link to the Past is another contender for my favorite Zelda game of all time. Anyways, if you fall down that hole there, if you notice while you were going up the dungeon that those pots were there in kind of the same areas, there's now going to be fairies here, so that's why I wasn't sweating too much not having fairies, blah. And you use this teleporter and it'll take you straight back up to the top of the dungeon where you were. And yeah, you could see that there wasn't really many rooms in this area, but it was a very tall dungeon, yeah. And also, wherever you fall through the holes on an upper floor is pretty much relative of where you're going to land here. So, for example, I went to the top part of that hole on purpose so I could avoid these little star things that will change where the holes appear, so that I could avoid them to get this. Now, the Moon's Pearl. You want to make sure you do that because this is one of the few exceptions where the dungeon item is not required for the dungeon or the boss fight, meaning you can actually miss it very easily. Especially because the item is so obtuse and out of the way. So it makes it very easy to miss. So you want to make sure you actually grab it before you leave this area. And it's not a good thing that those borders are up because I kind of need the blue ones to be up so I can get those pots there. Let's see, is there a switch in this room? There's not. Okay, I'll just go down and get the fairy because there's really no reason for me to go all the way down just to open up some walls. So, yeah. If you want to know how to get to the fairies, just like fall down this hole like I did earlier, and you'll fall through a bunch of pots again. And let's actually grab them so I can heal up. And here we go. Now we're going to go on to the boss of this dungeon, which is actually one of the harder bosses. Well, not really hard, but more so annoying. This is Moldorm. Now, Moldorm, kind of like how his mini brethren is going to have an erratic pattern and is also going to be pretty dangerous. Now, the most dangerous part about him is not him actually hitting you, but him knocking you back. As you see, whenever I hit the segments of his body, he knocks me back pretty far! And that happens. If you fall off the arena, any bit of damage that you did to him gets reset and the fight starts over when you come up here. If you fall off the sides, you'll go back to that previous room. However, you really want to avoid falling off the middle hole there because you're going to fall multiple floors there. Because like I said earlier, the holes where you fall are relative across floors. So if you fall down that hole, it's above another set of holes that you will continue to fall down. And it will just be a longer trek upward just to reach him again. So yeah, this boss is not really too difficult, but it is annoying to fight. Let's see here. And wow, I actually got him. Nice. You won the Pendant of Wisdom. With this, you have collected all 3 pendants. Go now to the Lost Woods to get the Master Sword. Alright, now we have done what we need to do in this area. We could go on to the right, but there's really not much for us to do there for right now. So we're going to just go ahead and do what the game told us to do and get the Master Sword, since there's really nothing much else to do now. That was a high jump. Alright, now we're going to have to navigate the dark caves here again, which can get a little frustrating because there's no way to light up the room, and if you fall off, then you're sent all the way back. That's what I get for being impatient and trying to dash across the room. Alright. And let's... Conveniently, going off of Death Mountain, that actually just puts us right next to the Lost Woods here. Actually, something I want to mention real quick that's a really neat piece of trivia is this area of the map right here is very resembling of the map from the first game. You see the little river that kind of has like the 2 ponds there in the middle. You have Death Mountain up at the top with Spectacle Rock in this area here, where the Tower of Hera is kind of where Dungeon 9 was in the first game. You got the desert here. You got the graveyard here and the Lost Woods over here. So yeah, this whole upper section is Hyrule from the first game. It's a pretty neat Easter egg. It was in the second game, and now it's adapted to the first game, and it looks even smaller than it did in the second game compared to everything else. Kind of shows you how this is, since this is taking place in the Fallen timeline with the Hero of Legend, kind of showing you how much smaller Hyrule was getting over the course of the areas. Which, yes, the Zelda timeline is extremely complicated. This is it! The Master Sword! No, it can't be. Too bad. Yeah. I really like theorizing about the Zelda timeline. It's one of my favorite pastimes in terms of Zelda. This is not the way we want to go. Oh, shoot! No, 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 no! Oh, no, 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 no! No, go away, go away, go away! Oh, God. Yeah, okay, so sometimes if you ram into trees, that can happen. Oh, my God. And it makes me sound like a freaking monkey, I swear. All right, let's go back. Wow, that was one of the biggest freakouts I've had thus far. Kind of expected that to happen later on in the game, but I guess some things don't change. But yeah, as I was saying, I like theorizing about the Zelda timeline. Which, yeah, for those of you who don't know, what I mean about the this taking place in the Fallen timeline is that Ocarina of Time is kind of like one of the most influential games, not only in like video game development, but also just story-wise for the Zelda series. Because it is the most pivotal game in the entire timeline. Yeah, go figure. Ocarina of Time being the most important one in the timeline. Which, since it is the first game where Link manipulates time, which, you know, it's kind of ironic because I'm playing a game called The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. But yeah, Ocarina of Time is the first time. Well, it's where the Hero of Time manipulates time. How many times did I say time in that sentence? Jesus. Jeez, man. Because of his time manipulation, the rest of the timelines branches off into 3 different timelines. This is the first game in the Fallen timeline where the Hero of Time gets defeated in the battle with Ganon, and the sages seal away Ganon before it's too late. However, he still gains his beast form, so yeah, Hyrule's still kind of screwed. Anyways, the hero's triumph on Cataclysm's Eve wins 3 symbols of virtue. The Master Sword he will then retrieve, keeping the knight's line true. So, what say you? Take what is rightfully ours. Suddenly, Sahashala contacts you telepathically. Link, it is extraordinary that you won the Master Sword. That makes evil retreat. With this shining sword, I believe you can deflect the wizard's evil powers. The destiny of this land is in your hands. Please, Link. And with that, we have now retrieved the Master Sword, the Blade of Evil's Bane. And look at that reach, man. So much better than our standard sword. So, very good that we got that. Link, help! The soldiers are coming to the sanctuary. Aye! I screamed because I didn't know what else to do. Alright, so it is now our duty to head back to the sanctuary in order to see if the princess is okay, which, judging by that text box, I'm willing to assume that she is not. So, yeah, bright idea they had to hide in the sanctuary. Nothing bad will happen, they said. Alright, let's head on out. Oh, also, now that we have the Pegasus boots, forgot to get this. Get another piece of heart there. Well, isn't that swell? And I believe if we slam into this... Yeah, okay, yeah, we get a bunch of apples, which will heal 1 heart at a time. I swear, they're supposed to be apples, but they look like freaking bell peppers there. Link, you are a second too late. I have failed. Zelda, the soldiers abducted her. They have taken her to the castle. You must find her before the wizard works his magic. Please, you're our only hope. Alright, now that things are looking bleak. The hero of legend must go to the castle and take on the wizard once and for all. Man, short game. We're already going on to the final boss. Oh, also, now that we have the Master Sword, if we're ever at full health, we're actually going to be able to shoot beams from the Master Sword, much like we could in the first game when we were at full health with our standard sword. But the beams are going to be just as strong as the previous level sword. So, yeah, they're not too terribly strong. Not like in the first game where it was equal to our sword, no. And there's masterful use of our shield there. And masterful use of our shield, and then I got hit. Okay, there we go. I blocked it, and then I ran into his attack. Alright. So yeah, now we see that there's a bunch of soldiers guarding the castle. They clearly don't want us to get in here, but we're gonna do exactly the opposite of what they want. But we're going to save that till next time. Next time on The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. We're going to go through Hyrule Castle and see if we can't save the princess from the clutches of the evil wizard. See you guys next time.